Running a business, regardless of size, demands strategic acumen, dedication, and adaptability. However, the challenges and nuances between managing a large enterprise and a small business diverge significantly. While both share the foundation of serving a mission and objectives like profitability and growth, their operational landscapes vary distinctly. I sat down with two Delaware business leaders, Tom Horne of JPMorgan Chase and Katie Kutler of Kaffé to explore the vast differences and yet fundamental similarities between running their respective organizations. Let's jump in. Welcome to Conversations with Kelly. I'm your host, Kelly Basil, and we're back for another episode where we take a deep dive into the topics at the forefront of the business community. Today, I'm joined by two Delaware CEOs, Tom Horne, head of Consumer Branch Baking and Delaware Market Leader at JPMorgan Chase, and Katie Kutler, CEO and founder of Kaffé and founder of the Spread Good Karma Foundation. Thank you both for joining me today on the show.
Great
Welcome.
Thank you.
So excited.
This is great. So before we dive into the conversation, here's a quick word from our sponsor. It's the end of the month, you have bills stacking up, a payroll to get out, and monthly financials to prepare, and your accountant just quit. What do? Cover & Rossiter's team of client accounting and advisory services experts can step in and manage the day-to-day financial operations necessary to keep your business or nonprofit running smoothly. They will work with you to streamline processes, update software, train personnel, and provide the right mix of accounting services. Visit coverrossiter.com to get started. Cover & Rossiter, great advice, great people. And we're back. Okay, first, I want to give you both the opportunity to just say who you are, what you do, and just, share with our listeners, what does your company do? How many employees do you oversee? Kind of just, start from the beginning. Katie?
Perfect. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I am the CEO and founder, like Kelly said, of Kaffé. We're a coffee shop by day, yoga studio by night. That's kind of how we started. And I oversee about 25 employees, but really I oversee about 4 to 5 people that directly report to me. So that's a recent change. We've only been open for about 2 years. So as we're growing really fast, which is exciting, it changes pretty much every single month, which is kind of, a whole ordeal in its own way. But I'm also the founder of the Spread Good Karma Foundation, which is a recent endeavor. It's our nonprofit, which focuses on making Delaware a healthier state. I'm really, really excited about that. It's driven by our team, by people around us, and kind of the impact that we set out to make by being a yoga studio at night. And we found some challenges with having yoga in our cafe. So we kind of pivoted, and it happened for the best. But yeah, my role it's big, and I think I underestimated a lot of times, but I'm really excited about what this year has in store for us.
I have so much respect for entrepreneurs. I could never do it. So
it's a lot of hats, and people say that phrase over and over again, but like every day I'm like, what character do I have to be today? Mm-hmm. It really, my whole body, whoever I have to be, it changes every single day.
Tom?
Well, it's great to meet you, Katie, and thanks for having us, Kelly. Hi, Tom Horne. I always start my introduction by saying born and raised Delawarean,
Absolutely.
A proud product of William Penn High School and the University of Delaware, and I'm excited to be here, so thanks for having us. My role, I'm a 35-year banker, Delaware banker, and at JPMorgan Chase, I lead our consumer branch banking team. We have branches in all 48 lower states that I oversee, and a wonderful team. I also serve as our market leader for the state of Delaware for the company. And I'm excited to talk today. I also have a great respect for entrepreneurs, Katie, and when you say you wear many hats, I think you wear all the hats as the founder. So.
It's very true. I want to know, so we have an entrepreneur, small business owner, and then also, the head of a very, very large bank here at the table. You are both so different, and yet I'm sure we can find some similarities between the two of you. But what led you both to where you are now? Katie?
Well, I like to say that I think I wasn't always good in school, and I don't know whether that was like undiagnosed ADHD. Some people tell me that's what it is. Who knows what it actually was? I was always creative, but I really liked helping people. I struggled to make friends when I was young, so I think the empath in me also led me to where I am now. And it's hard to say how I got here and like where I ended up, but I dropped out of nursing school. I looked around and saw that everybody in the hospital didn't take care of themselves, and I think that's a byproduct of the amount of hours they're working and the expectation that they're held to and how tired they are. But it was so backwards to me. I really have always cared about mindfulness, health, and wellness, and even as a teenager. So looking around in what is quote-unquote healthcare and seeing that everyone around me was sick and unwell was a real big struggle for me and something I couldn't work within. I really am connected to working within my mission and my values, and it just wasn't in alignment. So I went on to become a yoga and meditation instructor, and also sidebar that by being in retail for Lululemon, which was a supportive company of athletic wear, as well as like community health and fitness. And they gave me many opportunities. I taught yoga at a women's prison, which was my greatest joy, something that I wish I had more time to still do. But I also spent a great majority of my time there at different fitness gyms, cycling studios, etc. And my role was to build community, to connect people to the brand, not to the leggings. And I think that really shaped me in how I lead Kaffé Karma. I don't connect people to our coffee. I stand by our product the same way that I stood by Lululemon. We basically have an insurance policy. You don't like your drink, we'll replace it right now for free. And we do have an amazing product, but I don't have to speak on our product. It's that amazing. I always speak to our lifestyle, how we treat our team, how our team treats each other, and the impact we want to make in the community. So I think that's led to our fast growth, and soon we'll be expanding. I can't say anything about that
Wow, congratulations.
too much, but that's on our radar, and it's something that we're excited about. But I think that's what's made the nonprofit aspect so exciting, is because we've seen, okay, the coffee shop is great, you know, the lifestyle piece, the marketing piece, the product, all that stuff is going really well. We don't need to spend much more time developing and creating there, but really the impact side was really missing for me still. And so starting the foundation has been really awesome.
That's amazing. And I've been to Kaffé Karma. You walk into the shop and you just kind of like let out this big exhale. Like it your entire ground to ceiling environment, I feel like lives and breathes wellness. So great job.
Thank you.
I love the mission, the higher purpose. Tom, follow up to that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you mentioned that Katie and I are very, very different, but we'll probably find similarities. I actually guarantee you we're more similar than not. I mean,
Yeah.
Diversity is what makes a team strong, but people have more in common than they do differences, and I think it's wonderful and fun to kind of figure out what that is. And being both from Delaware, we'll easily find connections. We already did before we jumped online a little bit. So I am, as I mentioned, a 35-year Delaware banker, but an accidental banker. After I graduated from the University of Delaware, me and a couple buddies went and backpacked through Europe for a couple months, and I came home, and I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I took a job as a telephone bill collector for a relatively startup credit card company called MBNA, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do, putting my degree to work on the telephone all day long calling delinquent credit card holders, but I fell in love with the company. I fell in love with their culture built around the customer and around the employees of the company. I stayed there for 17 years and was able to grow with the company and take on more and more senior positions. And about 13 years ago, I joined JPMorgan Chase, and the same thing happened. I just fell in love with the company, the people that are really committed to winning together, winning with friends, focused on satisfying our customers, and really also lifting up communities wherever we do business, not just in this country, but around the world. And it's just a great company. And so the lesson I take from all that is you don't know necessarily what you want to do or will do the rest of your career, but life is too short to work for a company that you don't believe in and
Absolutely.
that doesn't have a culture that you align with, values and purpose that align with your values and purpose. And so I've always tried to find that in my employer.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
JPMorgan is huge, international company. How do you play a role in setting that culture?
Well, and we'll probably get to this, but I lead a team of 44,000 people.
Right.
So, it's a big, JPMorgan Chase says, I believe, over 300,000 people all around the world. We are the largest bank in the country, one of the largest banks in the world. And so, it's a privilege to be able to lead a team of that size and such a wonderful team in every state in the country. And so I take that responsibility very, very seriously. There are a lot of people that are counting on me to do my job well, probably with a little blind faith. They don't all know what I do all day long. They know who I am and what my role is, but not how I'm necessarily leading this place. And so the biggest part of my job is setting that culture, and trying to make this enormous bank feel small in all of the communities that we operate in across the country.
Can you give some examples of what that looks like?
Yeah, well, one of the most important parts of leadership, whether small or large, is communication. How you communicate with your team, how you communicate with your clients, how you communicate in the communities. And so, having such a large team, I have to really be thoughtful about how I communicate to my 6,000 leaders and all of the people underneath of them that run this bank across the country. And so, I spend a lot of time. I've helped. But I spend a lot of time and thought in how I communicate and what I communicate, and trying to bring everything back to our company's values. And we have stated values, and what our purpose statement is that we try to deploy across the world. And so I spend a lot of time and energy thinking about that and then doing that with my large team.
Katie, what about you? How do you set culture?
Well, I think the gap in which I transferred from working for Lululemon and teaching yoga to owning a coffee shop is I started my own nutrition coaching company. I got really obsessed with nutrition for a couple years. And
is that how you developed the most amazing toasts?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Our entire menu was created by me. There's things that my team adjusted when we were doing the actual layout in our training processes and seeing what made the most sense behind the counter, because my kitchen and the counter are like completely two different experiences. And you think that like your sourdough bread you buy from Wegmans would be the same as the one that you get like commercially from Le Bus. It's not, so everything changes. So everything is rooted in me from my nutrition coaching background. And I always believed in a balanced life, but leaning heavily towards wellness. So like most of your decision making should be, how can I input? And that was whether it was food, whether it was the content I'm listening to and absorbing, the conversations that I'm listening to. It all goes back in your output. So if I'm constantly inputting negativity, pessimism, toxic things in my, whatever. I'm a big hater on vaping and smoking. So vaping and smoking and a lot of excessive alcohol and, non-nutritious foods, my output's going to be so poor. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in the workforce. We're seeing that a lot in our healthcare. And so I think that experience of me as a coach and having such empathy for people's lives and the challenges they come across when trying to treat themselves with care, it goes right back into my team. And when I lost most of my clients during the pandemic, which led me to wanting to chase my dreams of starting this wellness forward cafe, there was, I'm a true entrepreneur. I'm true, I'm going to dig in and do whatever has to be done to not only make some money, but also to continue building my resume. So I didn't know much about branding and social media. I worked for a company that cared about it, like Lululemon. I didn't know much about the coffee world and running a restaurant, so I picked 3 different coffee shops / restaurants that I wanted to work for and spend my time in over the course of 2 years that were completely different, and take apart the experiences that I thought made up the best coffee shop. And so I worked for Terrain, and I had great experiences there. And I had great experiences everywhere. I worked at Terrain, then Baraha, and then Sleeping Bird, and all of which love all of those spaces. And I can admire them in such a completely different lens now that I own my own as well. I think when you work in a company, it's so easy to say like, well, they don't do this and they don't do that and they should have done this better. And, you know, it's so easy to nitpick and lean into that pessimism. But when you actually own your own or you manage your own, it's a new refreshed lens of how hard it is to change things when you've done things a certain way for a long time, or you never started the organization with those values and missions and things in place. And so my coaching background, but also immersing myself in a lot of things that just I didn't know and I had to be a true beginner in. And I very much so saw myself as a professional. I mean, I had my own nutrition coaching business for 3.5, almost 4 years, and I had 4 coaches that worked under me. We had hundreds of clients in our database. We were going viral on social media pages, a great following on all the things. And so stopping and working as like an entry-level position in a restaurant, like the amount of ego coaxing I had to do for a little bit, it all kind of makes the product of who I am and how I lead my company now. You know, I'm never too good. I always know what it's like to be new to the industry, to the company, that first impressions are absolutely everything. And that, oh my God, I wish that we invested like $20,000 before we opened in like HR, paperwork, somebody just come in and do checklists and things, because now we're doing them now. So I don't know. I think it's a mix of all that stuff.
Katie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
My organization is so large, we hire close to 1,000 people a month.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, there's no more important decision you make than who you're putting on your team. What do you look for when you're interviewing people to make sure they're the people that espouse the values you just recited and can carry on that culture you've worked so hard to create?
Well, I think I can teach people skills. I don't think I can teach people how to people. I think that there's some give with that. I think you can, you know, absolutely stretch people, but I don't think that I can take somebody with great skills but horrible people isms and make them this amazing people person. And so my store manager of Cafe Karma, she's amazing. She does so much, and I just give everybody on my team so much credit, because working for a small business owner, let alone a new business, since day one, and staying through all the changes and the growth, and you know, I come in and right now we're annihilating all of our systems and processes and essentially restarting. And that's hard. Like, that's hard to like sit through all of that while also not getting this ginormous raise because we can't afford it. So she's definitely somebody, when she's hiring, she's looking for skills, because that's less training that we would have to do. In the meantime, it makes sense, right? But for me, I'm like, I won't budge on the people aspect. If I don't get a good vibe from you, if you're not overly friendly, or you don't know how to turn overly friendly on when it matters, which is all the time in the hospitality industry, I'm out. I don't care if you're the best line cook. I don't care if you're the best barista. I don't care if you make the best product. Like, for me, that's just not worth it. Because you can get the best coffee, but if that person is a, insert bad word, they are going to still hate your product. So yeah, I try and avoid the people that are not people.
I mean, there's a saying, hire for attitude, train for skills, and it's very real.
Yes.
Here's an example of the similarities, not necessarily between the two of us, between our businesses. Every leader on my team recently read a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and
it's a great book.
It's a wonderful book,
and
it's all about how to create special experiences for your customers, bringing hospitality to every customer every day. It doesn't have to be in a restaurant or a coffee shop. We try to do that in a bank.
love that you guys read that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great read.
Walk me through your day-to-days. Do you have morning rituals? How do you get to work? Tell me about it. Tom, go.
Yeah, I'm an incredibly structured person.
I'm sorry, I have to just pause you for a second. I already learned that Tom drinks hot water all day long.
All day long.
So there's a ritual.
It annoys some people, my structure, but it works for me. I think discipline is really important, and routines are very good as long as they don't become routine that you kind of sleepwalk through them. So I get up early. I like to go to bed early, and I like to wake up early. The morning is my most productive time. Sleep is important, and I'm glad this is maybe karma that we met, because I want to hear more about, you know, wellness, because it is one of 3 stated priorities I have for my team, is the well-being of our team. And I love to work out. It's one of the things I do for myself, not just for physical health, but also for my mental health. And so I try to get a workout in every morning. And if I don't, I do it at night. I start my day with a little gratitude journaling that I've been doing for about a dozen years and some other things. And then when I get to work, there are a series of things I read every day relative to our industry and to what's going on in the country and the world. And then I get to work. I spend a lot of time in meetings with a large team. I have 7 direct reports, none of them who sit in Delaware, that help me run the country. So we spend a lot of time on meetings. I spend about half my time traveling. I have 2 more of the 50 states to visit, and I will hit them before the end of the year. So it's a lot of travel, but it's, you can get good at travel and make it productive. FaceTime with my team is incredibly important across almost 5,000 branches. Obviously, I won't visit them all, but I can visit all of our regions and markets in the country. And so you have to be very thoughtful on the road, or you can let it get to you and get you down in terms of, physically and how you feel and not getting good sleep, especially when you're switching time zones. So that structure and discipline I talked about, I try to maintain when I'm on the road as well. It's very important that I think that you eat well and, take care of yourself and get the right amount of sleep. It's amazing how much better you feel when you get a good night's sleep. Yeah. Just a side note, I've learned, as I've started, I track everything. So tracking sleep, that if you ask people how much sleep they need, they will tell you how much sleep they get. But it doesn't mean that's what they need. And I noticed that personally when I started getting a little more sleep, how much better I felt and how much more productive I was. So I don't know if that's... How much
do you need?
I'm much better when I get about 7.5 hours. I don't always get it, but when I get 7.5, I feel a heck of a lot better.
Man, that would be so nice.
Well, you have a young child.
I was going to say, my 7th-month-old doesn't let me have that much right now.
I thrive on 6.5, 7 too. I feel like if I sleep 8, I'm like 2. It was too much rest. I don't know how to explain that, but it was not good. My day-to-day is changing all the time right now. Prior to opening the coffee shop, worked out at 5 a.m. every single day. I do CrossFit/functional fitness style workouts. My husband owns a gym, so that we met through Lululemon, and that kind of, is my home space. But I found with the coffee shop, our day starts so early. So I'm still very much so attached to my phone and my team. Like, we just text, we have a group meet, it starts at 5 a.m., and I think that's the thing that I struggle with the coffee industry, is like adjusting to the fact that my most preserved and needed time was the morning, was working out at 5 a.m. before the world wakes up and having that peace with that podcast on the ride home and showering, making breakfast. Like, I had such a day before 9 a.m. And now my day is shit hits the fan before 9 a.m. That's when I get all the blurbs of things that we need, things that we have tallies on, and, so-and-so showed up late, and all this information overload before 7 a.m. So for me, I found that I've really struggled to have my morning time in that regard, and I've shifted to evening workouts, really being clocked down, present, cooking with my husband at night. We make sure that we sit at the dining room table and no phones are around. And we just have intentional time together. And I think that's been a really good adjustment to the end of my day. Since he owns a gym, we have the same early morning wake up, which is also very beneficial because we go to bed at 9. We are asleep by probably 9:15 most nights, which is the best. And I think there's a lot of correlations with CEOs and early mornings and early bedtimes. And I think sometimes it's like, people perceive it as like the grind and the hustle, and you've got to be the person that's first in and, last out, and you're making sure that you're maintaining your health and your mind and all these things. But I also think that level of peace that you have from waking up early and going to bed early is something that people don't talk about enough. Like, you need that peace so that you can be peaceful when you're managing the chaos. And so yeah, my mornings are now spent usually going to the coffee shop.
Putting out some fire.
Yeah, putting out some fire, but also, like, I really love being in the store during opening with the opener. It's just this, like, private time that we get to just, like, catch up one-on-one, and there's no noise. There's no team members. There's no people ordering. And I've really struggled with being in the cafe since we opened because people want to talk to me, and I love that so much. And I also spend most of my journaling time wondering why I don't feel grateful and why I struggle with the communication with guests in the cafe. It is so overstimulating for me because I have a job to do and I have to stay organized. I have to get a lot done in a short time frame. And when I'm in the cafe, people come up to me all day.
You're the face.
My time. Yeah, and we don't have an office. So like wherever I sit in the cafe, that's my office for that day. And so people, it's a wide open door policy. You know, people will just come in. And again, I love it in the moment. I'm so present and enjoy that time. But by the time I shift back, look at my computer, I'm like, oh my God, I just talked to that person for 20 minutes. Do that 5 times a day. I'm like, wow, we just lost so much time. So
But you probably made 5 customers for life.
I did. And that is that's always the benefit, right? Is that people see the love and the intention that goes into Karma, and that is that lifestyle piece that's so necessary and does us wonders. I can't quantify it usually, you know, but I know that it's important. I know that it works, and I know that it's the reason why we're so good at what we do. But yeah, I'm struggling with my routine these days. I'm still figuring it out.
Well, you both mentioned things that you do for yourselves, which is so important. But when you're the top person wherever you are, it's really difficult to trust sometimes. So how do you lean in and trust your employees to help make sure that things are working and moving forward, so that way you do take that needed time for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think the single most important job of a leader is to build a team they can trust. You know, people ask me, how in the world do you manage 44,000 people? And I don't mean this to sound arrogant. It's not that hard. It's not that much more difficult than managing 44 people if you have built the right team. I have 7 divisional directors that help me run the country, 29 regional directors underneath of them. I know every one of them personally. I trust every one of them. They're exceptional leaders, almost all of them with more experience in this part of the business than I have. If I am not here, they will be fine. They will run this business very well. But I spend a lot of my time thinking about my team, assembling the right team that can help lead this organization, because I cannot do it myself. And so I have it's a journey. You know, it's a process of building a team that you feel that way about, but once you do, your job becomes significantly easier and you don't worry. And this may be a little different between a large organization and a smaller one. I don't worry that things are going to go well if I am not here. And so that is, I think, the number one priority of a leader. And then you just have to make sure that that team knows exactly what you expect of them, what your vision is for how the organization should run. You have to obviously role model that and show them what that looks like. And so I'm proud to say I have maybe one of the best teams I've ever worked with right now that I have complete confidence in, and I think it's why we're winning and gaining market share.
Absolutely. I'm in that time of our lives where I struggle with the team that got you here won't get you there, and I don't know who that is or what that looks like on a day-to-day, but I'm transparent about it with my team. Like I just said that quote to them yesterday, you know, and it's not about figuring out like, well, I need to fire you and we need to replace you. It's like, where are we adding people, and our next hire, what are the traits that we're actually looking for? Because I think in the beginning there's this fear that you just have to get started, and you don't know what you don't know. You don't know who the pessimistic people are going to be. You don't know who the people are going to be that don't enjoy the feedback that you're giving them or respect the feedback you're giving them. You don't know who is going to end up not being great with guests or taking care of your space and also living out your vision and values as well. So I think that I actually don't worry when I'm gone either, but some of it is delusional confidence, and I lean into this all the time. It helps me because I am very empathetic, and I end my day worrying about everything if I allow my brain to go there. So I lean into my journal, but I also am like, if we didn't get a ton of bad reviews, and if sales aren't plummeting and people aren't just like, Cafe Karma's the worst place on ever, like, we're okay for right now. And I think, the restaurant industry is different in the sense that you have to be there to do your job. There's no remote working. I'm trying to change that a little bit, but the amount of perks that we can give is all relative. And obviously our budget is lower too. So it's hard. I think it's really hard to manage on, who's best and how to keep them happy, but I think we really try with the culture.
Well, and I think one important skill for a leader to have is knowing and understanding your people in a way where sometimes it's not that they're not the right person for the company, they're just in the wrong seat on the bus. So maybe it's moving them somewhere else where they do thrive. And you both talk about, both organizations growing. So that's a lot of opportunity for those people. Maybe you move someone over to your foundation, Katie, or a different market. I can't speak banking, Tom. I'm so sorry. Move a person to another branch market.
Good enough.
I tried. But being able to identify those strengths and weaknesses in people and then help them succeed is so important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think we're getting close to time. I'm getting the signal to my right from David. What advice can you give an entrepreneur who's looking to start a business, or maybe someone who already owns their business but is looking to scale up?
Well, any business, small, large, entrepreneur, big company, you must remember why you exist, and that's to serve your customers. And so a relentless focus on the client and understanding the client's needs and how to satisfy those needs, and then the same focus on your team. Making sure your team knows that you care about them. Demonstrate it. You can't just say it. You have to demonstrate it. And once they realize that, they will do absolutely anything for you. And just kind of a sidebar, because I love what you're doing with your company, that this notion of wellness and well-being is so important, and I think it's becoming more and more important because we do have a mental health epidemic in our country. And so I have 3 stated priorities for my enormous team, and one of them is well-being. Mm-hmm. And we're a bank, but without my 44,000 people coming into the office every day feeling like their best selves, then they're not going to produce the best work if they don't. And so we're very focused on that. So my advice to any leader, entrepreneur, large or small, is to focus on the overall well-being of your team, whatever that means to you. And it's not just physical health, just their overall well-being. So I admire what you're doing and what your foundation's doing, Katie, because I think we can all learn from that.
Thank you. Yeah, I always say the mental health crisis and the obesity epidemic are sisters. They are always intertwined, and we are seeing the effects of that in our culture, in America specifically. And it's hard to battle if we don't address both mental and physical. But I think that I kind of go along with that well-being aspect, but I think perception is everything. It doesn't matter what work you think you're doing or how good you think you're doing or where you think you're already doing enough at. If your guest, your client, your team member, the people above you perceive you as being one way, there's a knowledge gap there, and you've got to tell the story how it's truly being told and whatever the truth is, so you guys can come closer together. So I'm a big fan of just remembering that perception's everything, and we got to clear that air when necessary.
Now, before I let you both go, we're going to switch over to our combo connections. I did give you both advance notice so you can come up with a good one. But I will ask each of you to give a shout out to a person or organization that you think just deserves a little special attention. Tom?
You gave us a little bit of notice.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes.
Yeah. I would like to give a shout out to a dear friend of mine, Dr. Tony Allen, who's the president of Delaware State University, also a William Penn Colonial, and someone I've known a long period of time. I admire him as a man, but I really, really admire what he is doing at Delaware State University, turning that HBCU that we have just 40 miles down the road here in Delaware into one of the leading HBCUs in this country. And I just love watching him work. I admire him. I'm here to help anything that he wants to do, but we had a lot of problems in this country, and I think people like Tony are the ones that help us face them head on. So shout out to my buddy Tony,
who you went to high school with.
I did. Yeah, I'm a little older than him, but yeah, we went to the same high school.
I would love to give a shout out to Jennifer Cohen. She's the CEO of Leadership Delaware, and I'm in the current class this year, and she She's the real deal, man. I'm one of those people that I judge a little bit of a book by the outside of their cover until I start to get to know them. And I was really not sure about her when I first met her, but man, she is the real deal. She's strong, she's compassionate, she's empathetic, and she really wants the best for the state. And she really pushes people into uncomfortable places that they need to grow into. And it's been a joy to watch her in her final year. She's tapping out after this year, and I'm just grateful to have had a year alongside of her and learn from her and watch how she leads.
That's a great shout out. Both your shout outs are fantastic. But Jennifer specifically, so she was a speaker when I was in Leadership Delaware. She wasn't leading the organization yet. And I don't know that I've ever told her this, but maybe she'll listen to this episode and find out. But man, when she spoke to our class, I left it very, very inspired, and have since had a professional crush on her. So she's wonderful.
You should absolutely tell her. She'll listen to this episode, but she's so great at bringing people from polar opposite views to meet in the middle. And I believe that if Jen can't do that, then I don't know if somebody else can, because she's really, really good at it. So, yeah.
So I am going to give a shout out to my colleague and friend, Helena Rodriguez. We talked about Katie's foundation. Well, Helena has a nonprofit that she also started called Project Comfort. And, you know, we're getting closer to the holidays, so I figure I'll give her organization a shout out. But, you know, she'll be looking for volunteers and blanket donations. She goes into nursing homes and provides, you know, love and care to those who really need it during the holiday season. So shout out to Helena, who's doing the good work.
I almost did her as a shout out, so I'm glad we didn't do the same one.
So with that, thank you both. If anyone wanted to get in touch with you afterwards, Tom, how can they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn.
That's a good one. He's a hard guy to find. Katie?
I'm way less secretive. I use social media like it's my diary, and I write my real thoughts and feelings, whether you like them or not. So you can follow me at Katie Kutler on Instagram, and follow Kaffé Karma and the Spread Good Karma Foundation as well to see the whole picture.
And if you have any questions, suggestions for future episodes, or want to get in touch with me or any of my colleagues at the State Chamber, you can find us on our website, dscc.com. We're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And with that, thank you both. I feel like I need a part 2 with you, the two of you. This was a really great episode, so I really appreciate you.
I'll meet you at Kaffé Karma tomorrow morning.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Perfect.
See, we got him.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Conversations with Kelly, brought to you by the Delaware State Chamber of Commerce. Before we sign off, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. I know podcast hosts say this all the time, but your support is invaluable, and it helps other listeners easily find us. I'm your host, Kelly Basil. We'll see you soon.